Okay, welcome everybody to WSET School London's Winemaker in Focus this evening. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. And that is today, the 8th of March. And it's my pleasure to be introducing Michelle Cherutti-Kowal MW and Almudena Alberca, who will take you through all the achievements of Almo over winemaking and all her Venice expertise shortly. But before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. You have the chat at the bottom of your screen. You can use that to comment or say hello, but there's a separate tab at the bottom for Q&A. So if you have any particular questions you'd like to put to either Michelle or Almudena, then please put them in the Q&A section. We will keep an eye on that, and at the end of the interview, we will go through those questions. The recording of the session, if you need to leave early or you miss any of it, will be available from tomorrow on the WSET School London's YouTube channel or via our website, and you just go to the student information tab and webinar recordings. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Michelle Cherutti-Kowal, Master of Wine, to take you through this evening. Thank you, Michelle.
Great, thank you, Lydia. Welcome, everybody. I'm looking at the numbers and I had a brief look at the chat. So I just want Almo to know we've got people from all over the world, lots of people that are logging in from Spain, people from Italy, and obviously from the UK. So hopefully we'll get more. So thank you very much for joining us and spending, whether it's your evening with us or your afternoon with us. I'm really, really delighted to interview this lady who is an amazing winemaker. So let me just give you a little bit of history. What I want to do is talk to Almudena about how everything that she's done, every role that she's done has influenced her as a winemaker and how she sort of put it all together to the role that she has now. So to do that, although it's a lovely picture of Almudena, I want to put this next one up for you. If my computer will work, the screen will share. There we go. Just so we have something that you guys can take a look at and understand the timeline that we're going to go through. So welcome, Almudena, or Almo, as I call her, my friend Almo. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this and to joining this. I know you're a very busy lady, and I think people will appreciate it when they see how very busy you are in the role that you're currently doing. But I guess I'd like to go back. I'd like to talk about your educational background. So you went to school, you went to the University of Salamanca, I believe, in Zamora, and you've got a degree in agricultural engineering. Can you tell everybody, what does that mean you can do?
The agricultural engineering was specialized in food technology. So I was studying all type of processing of food, from the most simple process to the most complex one, all the chemistry and biology behind every type of process, like maybe in the wine business, we talk about sometimes Maillard reactions, or it's very popular when you do caramel. So what is the process behind all of this and how you get into different stages of that? How can you build an industry to make or to process every type of food? So about tanks, about temperatures exchange, basically everything that you need to become professional and moving from your kitchen to an industrial process. Okay. And as well, it was the wine included inside this. It was all the process of winemaking process and biology and aging.
Okay, okay, all right. So obviously you're a incredibly smart lady to be an agricultural engineer. So it was during your degree that you became an intern. So if you look at the work experience on the slide to the right, that's 2003, and you were an intern, and you went to an intern at the Cooperativa de Soto. And that's in, if people don't know where that is, that's in the Denominación Tierra de la Vina, Zamora. So just, I've got a map in case a bunch of you are sitting there, and I know in Spain you know this, but in case a bunch of you are sitting there going, where is Zamora? So I'm just, if you bear with me, if you see where Toro is in this map, just go due south of Toro, and that is the region, that is the Denominación, that is Zamora. So you're seeing it just to the west of Rueda, just to the south of Toro, and pretty close to the border with Portugal. So let me just go back to that. So in you got an internship, you went to a cooperative. I'm going to assume they grew, what, black grapes, grew Tempranillo here?
Oh, the cooperative had Tempranillo and as well a lot of white, Malvasia.
Okay,
Was
great.
very neutral, but very interesting because they have a lot of old vines, even a lot of Prephyloxera vines. And I need to confess that the white, it was very interesting as well, but the area was specialized in Tempranillo.
In Tempranillo, okay.
In Tempranillo.
So from this experience, from being an intern there, what was the biggest lesson that you, I'm going to assume this is your first sort of winemaking experience? Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it was my,
go ahead.
It was my first experience and I wanted to learn everything and I wanted to learn as fast as possible. It's something like, is my personality, like I want to do everything. And I was open to do any type of job, and the cooperative, it was big in terms of volume, or big within the context of Tierra del Vino de Zamora, which is a very tiny DO. But it was only one winemaker and a cellar hand. So I was doing the lab, but the lab, it was a very short period. So I think I was exposed to every operation, like processing grapes, cleaning, fermenting, pumping over, pressing, pretty much everything, because I wanted to do it. And
Okay.
they were very happy to have someone to want to do everything.
Okay.
But I think in general, the major or the most of the hours that I was working there, I was cleaning.
You were cleaning. So you were cleaning. So
Cleaning.
if you had to sit there and say, from this work experience, you know, for you as a winemaker today, what was the biggest thing you took away from this internship?
I will say that I think everything is important, but for this, I will take cleaning, because
Cleaning.
it was a sort of old-fashioned cooperative, and I was a bit obsessed, and they were very happy to have someone that was obsessed of cleaning. So I was cleaning all the times very thoroughly, because it's really, really important. I think probably 60 or 70% of the work of a winery is cleaning and sanitation, and be sure that you have everything very well done.
That's great. I mean, I often say that to students.
I know that is not romantic.
No, it is. I say that to students that I teach in diploma when I do get to teach winemaking, that, you know, that's sort of the other side of winemaking that I think we don't talk to people about is it is hygiene, and it is absolutely hot water, using hot water. It's just, it is the couple of times that I've spent times in a winery, that's what you do, you clean, or alcohol, using distilled alcohol to clean the tanks. It is just absolutely cleaning. All right, good.
So, and I had time to think about how to organize a full year to avoid getting to harvest like this.
Really?
So, yeah, I was thinking like, these people need some protocols. And how to teach people to clean properly, of course, because you need to have all this knowledge to understand all the process with acid and basic products and the different type of products that you have.
So that's interesting. So that's really your degree in agricultural engineering coming into play here for that sort of first rule. So you're saying that I need to define protocols and I need to define a process for them for a better cleaning schedule. And anybody who does sort of, you know, study winemaking, you know, quality control, quality assurance, QC/QA is a huge part of that.
And I end up doing my research paper for the degree, doing a further analysis process for a winery.
Oh, did you? So you're saying your degree for engineering. Okay.
Yeah.
So from that, in and around the same time frame or shortly thereafter, you became assistant winemaker. So Viñas de Cenit, in the same location. So we're looking at Tierra del Vino de Zamora. How did that role come about? How did you get that role?
It was a very coincidence of life. So there was a group of people in Spain. It was one of the major importers of Spanish wine in US, and a very well-known journalist and a wealthy guy, very related with wine. that they decide to make a trial in the area because they thought that it was a very high quality area for Tempranillo, and they wanted to make a high class or very high quality wines from there. So they were doing a trial in the cooperative when I was doing my internship. So I got to meet them, and because I was very cleaning lady, I was doing everything like with a professional way of doing, no, and I think they could trust on me because I was doing everything. When I know it was part of my study, so I didn't have a earning, or I wasn't earning anything, so I was doing it well because I wanted to make it well, just for being perfectionist, I will say.
Okay.
So it was the opportunity to meet them, and they liked the trial. They were aging the wines during the winter, and they love it a lot. They were working with some other journalists, and they decided to build a winery in 2004. So they were building the winery in spring, between spring and harvest, and they called me in summer, like, we want you to join the team for the next harvest.
Brilliant. Wow. So that is a real coincidence. That's quite
Totally
amazing. Yeah. Did you ever think you were from agricultural engineering, from your degree, that you would end up in winemaking?
No, if I need to tell you the truth, I didn't think about it at the beginning, because I remember one of my bosses asked me, like, what do you want to do, Almo? And I was like very excited about everything, no? And I told him, like, I don't know, because I like everything. I like to make cheese or cookies or whatever. I was very passionate about all the engineering process in general. And I did this, and I could be doing other things. So it was just total coincidence as well.
That's amazing. Okay.
But I met also, in the experience, I met Amy Hopkinson, which she's from New Zealand. And I think she started to inject me a little bit of the passion about the wine. So opening my brain and my mind to other worlds. And I think probably this was the most exciting thing that moved me into the wine business at the beginning.
So let's go into that. So you started that. So they started this winery. They built this winery, Viñas de Cenit. And that's when you met Amy Hopkinson. So she's a New Zealander and had been making wine in a bunch of different roles in Spain. And so you and her, really kind of started this winery together. What were the roles? What was she doing? What were you doing? You were assistant winemaker at this time. What does that mean you were doing in the creation of this winery?
Basically, because we were the two of us, for 2004 harvest, we also have one friend of her from England and one friend of her from Australia. And so we were the four of us in the middle of Zamora, which is very isolated area and very traditional. So Amy had all the experience with the wine and the knowledge about how to taste the grapes, or she was very good taster. So she was very focused more on the real processing of the winemaking, and I was supporting her with the rest, because she was speaking very little Spanish as well. So I was setting up the lab, setting up all the computer systems, setting up all the engineering things like electricity, the cooling system, speaking with the people that were setting up the tanks. So basically the rest of the things, so she was focused on the wine, and she was telling me, like, I need this, I need the other, now we need to do this. So I was doing all of these things.
So you were fulfilling that. Clearly I need you in my house when we do renovations. Anyway, that's another webinar. So from that, in between this time, so you stayed with Cenit for quite a while, but in between this time, you went and did a harvest in New Zealand. I'm going to assume that was sort of with Amy's influence. How did you get there? Did you need to get, did you need to get permission to be there? Like, did somebody set you up the role? So you went there for a harvest. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, of course, it was her idea. Like because New Zealanders and Australian people always travel a lot, and she told me like, "Almu, do you want to make a harvest in New Zealand?" And I never thought about this because I think I was like 24 or 25, which now I'm traveling a lot, and in my last 10 years, probably I traveled for all my life. But when I had 20, 25 years, I didn't have the money and I didn't have the time. And it wasn't as usual as it is now to travel this far, at least in Spain with the Spanish culture. And I'm coming from a normal family, so I need to work in order to have money to travel to somewhere. So I decided like, it sounds like a good idea. And I thought at the beginning that I was going to work like 4 or 5 months in Zenit. So I did my numbers and I thought, oh, okay, I have money for the ticket. And if I'm going to work there, I will have some money to survive. So I told her yes, and I gave her my CV and she helped me to put it in different wineries because I had a degree in engineering and I had already, it wasn't too much, but I had to harvest on my own. I found this opportunity in Vidal Estate in Hawke's Bay, belonging to Villa Maria Group, and I went there as a cellar hand.
Okay, so what did, I think somebody's asked if did you have to get a visa to go to New Zealand?
Yes.
Yeah.
I need the visa. It's very complicated to get there. You need in order to get the visa as a worker, you need a formal or serious contract with a company. The company is telling the government that you are going to work with them. You need to give a money deposit or show that you have at least a certain amount of money just in case something happens, you can survive. And you need the plane ticket back and forward. And I don't remember.
Okay.
I think
so
it was,
yeah.
This was the basic. And the winery offered me a room in a house inside the winery. And it was basically in a sort of way to travel to the antipodes, because it's the antipodes from my city. Yep. It was relatively safe.
Okay.
But it was the first time in my life that I was flying alone. Wow. I took one flight to Greece because I went with all my colleagues from the university and I didn't travel anywhere else.
And that's it. Wow.
That's my luggage.
That's a big trip. It's a big trip for your first sort of solo trip. So in this harvest in Hawke's Bay, what did you learn from that you took forward in winemaking?
So many things, because they work very professional. I think I will say that they are very careful in the winemaking, taking into account every detail. So also the protective winemaking way, like always protecting with CO2 gas or inner gases, basically. So I think also the focus on the fruit. The most important thing is protect the quality of the fruit. And we are all there to make sure that this fruit is going to suffer as less as possible until it's processed. And because I think sometimes, depending on the places, or at least in the previous year or when I started in Spain, it was sort of less important. It was more important to have happy the viticulturists, to process very fast, to finish harvest very quickly, but this wasn't the case. So the case was make as best as possible from what you have and thinking that you have best of the qualities since the beginning. Okay. And also the dedication and the passion, and also a lot of cleaning. They were very perfectionist in that sense. And I was a cellar can. And as a vital experience for me, or as a human experience, I was working with a very professional team. The majority of the people was winemakers with lot of and several vintages around the world, with a lot of experience, maybe 12, 14 vintages, or maybe 2 every year, one in the north, one in the west, or in the south. And for me, this was like thinking about like, if you want to be winemaker, you need to be the best, and you need to, or this was the first time that I thought that I want to be a winemaker, and to be a winemaker, I need to get ready very fast and very well, because if you want to be winemaker, it's not going to be easy, because all of these people, they were a bit older than me, some of them, and they were trying to get a position as a winemaker. So it's not that easy.
Okay. So from that, cleaning still, but quality. So just the protection of the fruit, you just learned that quality. So when you say protection, I'm going to assume stainless steel, gases, and professionalism. So from this role, I know you went back to Spain. I know you only did one harvest there, and you went back to Spain. You went back to Cenit, but you also started your degree in oenology. So that's when you said you wanted actually now to go back to school and to have not just an agricultural engineer, but to come out with a degree in winemaking as well. Did you stop working to do this? Did you work and do this part-time? Where did that happen?
I was working full-time, because if I need to tell you the truth, I was having so much fun working. We were working a lot and very hard, because the majority of the time we were the two of us. But I was learning a lot, and for me, it was an incredible experience, and I wanted to keep it. Okay. So I was doing my degree at the same time that I was working. So I used to work long hours, 4 days a week, and go 1 day to the university.
Okay. And you did this, you told me you did this Ribera del Duero, so you went to the University of Winemaking College in Ribera del Duero. Yeah. You go back and do that. So you got your degree in oenology, you've got a master's in viticulture there as well. So you did that as well at the same time.
During the summers, I was doing the level 2 and the level 3.
And then you were doing WSET, because you had nothing else to do, I'm going to assume. So you were doing WSET level 2 and level 3.
Yes, because I found that the tasting experience, or it wasn't enough at the university, or at least I wanted to learn more. So I thought like, oh, why not? I can go for a week in London, learn a bit of English, and get better on my tasting skills.
Okay. So in 2007, you became head winemaker. So I know that Amy left and you became the head winemaker there. So your first sort of chance kind of to be in charge. And then in 2010, you had Cenit, but you also had Dominio de Atauta in Ribera del Duero. So talk to me about that experience. If we take a look where we are, Ribera del Duero. So you had the two of them. So you had the two roles for, and how long did the two roles last? Was that 5 years?
5.
You had both roles?
Yeah.
So you were making wine in both. So when you went to Dominio, when you went to Atauta, talk to me about, was this, I know you were in charge at Cenit, but Atauta, this was brand new, it was yours, it wasn't started by somebody else. You came into this winery. Is it fair to say that this was the first time you felt, I can take this and I can do something with this, and this can be sort of my...
Yes, yeah, in a way, yes. It was a different moment as well of my life, but probably I was in a different human situation, no? And I have this feeling like I'm going to take this because I wanted to work outside Tierra del Vino. It was something that I wanted to do it. I wanted to jump into Ribera del Duero. So it was more like a more intense experience for me. And yes, probably I felt like you said, like, okay, now I'm going to show up. What can I do in a better known area and in a better known winery as well?
So what changes did you make in Atauta? What did you do when you first came there?
So if in terms of the two projects, they were sharing that both of them were looking into very high quality wines. Also, they were sharing the variety, Tempranillo, and also they were sharing that the Tempranillo was very old vines located in a lot of small parcels. There was two big differences between the two. One was the soils. In Zamora, the soils are more regular soils, like normally sandy underneath and clay underneath and sandy on top. And in Atauta, it was a big variation of soils with, and the orography was more different. It was a small valley within a big valley, which is Ribera del Duero. So the orography was more intense and leaving out so many different soils and as well depth of soils. It was very short depth of soils. It was calcareous rock a lot. It was clay. It was sandy. Different location and exposures. So it was a bigger variation, and also it was a very cool climate. We are talking that both areas belong to the Duero River area, but Atauta is 1,100 meters altitude, very close to the mountains or high elevations in Spain, high elevations of 2,000 meters. And Tierra del Vino de Zamora or Toro is in the Duero River Valley, but close to the Portugal border, more or less in the center of the plateau. That the area is a plateau, flat in the middle, but with high elevation. But in this area, it was like 700, 750 meters. It was a warmer climate, easier in a way to cultivate. I will say that probably by nature, it was an organic area. So it was lazy viticulturists that I always say that they are lazy because the weather and the climate and the variety is so good that they don't need to do anything. Okay. And in Ribera del Duero is the change. You have very short, especially in Atauta, you have very short period for ripening the grapes, something in between mid of May until mid of September, where you need to be very professional on your viticulture techniques. And also you need to deal with the final ripeness of the grapes in order to find the better ripeness or the ripeness that you are looking for, make high quality wines. Okay. And this was the big picture of the area.
So for you, so now you've got a vastly different sort of ripening and different from place to place. How about the winery? What did you need to do in the winery?
Well, the winery was a massive job. I will say that it was a full transformation because it was a very nice winery where the winery has short history where they were doing very high quality wines, but in some certain point, the winery started to have several problems about microbiology. So basically, I was using all my knowledge and my scientific knowledge about microbiology, building materials, cleaning, all the cleaning process possible in the world. I will say that I was using my engineering brain in order to get organized there because it was so many things to resolve and in a very short period of time because I started to work in August, harvesting was at the beginning of October. So we need to group the wines in quality, in the relative quality that we were having at that point, and how to sanitize or sterilize the winery before harvest. So the first part of the job, it was that should be very quick. It was 1.5 months where we need to get organized everything, like save the wines that were able to be safe and to project them into the future. Take apart those wines that wasn't in a okay situation and set up the winery. And at the same time learn about the ripening season that it was going very fast and very quick. Wow. In a second stage, we were thinking about the building and the winery and start to do a strategy to recover the fermentation room and the barrel room in order to have a proper place to keep the very high quality that we wanted to make it. And this all of this, it was without making any noise. It was very muted because it was something very inside the winery. No one wants to start speaking about this everywhere, no? You need to do all the job and be fast and be quiet and go ahead.
Yeah, well, you're gonna sit there and advertise that you need to clean up a winery. This is your new role as head winemaker. It's not you want to make the wine and just want to improve them. You're not gonna run around.
But those things happen. Those things happen. It's normal. Sometimes for whatever reason, maybe you have too much humidity, or the building is not in the right condition, or is underneath, or is craved into the rock or whatever, and you start to have more humidity than you wanted, and maybe suddenly you have a infection of undesired microorganisms. Yeah. And those are things that we all study, and those are things that can happen anytime. Okay. Ideally, you don't want them to happen, but it's real life.
So can I ask a little bit about winemaking? So now you've had experience with Tempranillo in 2 places.
Cool and warm.
Talk to me, yeah, cool and warm. So how did that affect your extraction? How did that affect your extraction of color, your extraction of tannins? Did you clearly you would have had to change them, I'm going to assume, between Atauta and Cenit?
Yeah, we were doing completely different winemaking process. While in Tierra del Vino, which is a warmer climate because it's warmer, you have high concentration of sugar, high concentration of final alcohol, and as well, normally you have a very well and good ripeness of the grapes, so very easy to extract all the tannins that you want and all the color that you need and everything. So there we will focus more in open vats. We have 32 open vats with like a bathtub shape. Yeah. And we were processing each of the parcels separately.
Okay.
So because you have more alcohol, a lot of color, and a lot of tannins, you want them to polymerize as fast as possible. We know that polymerization goes through a lot of times or it's better to do it with oxygen. So we were doing a lot of oxygenation, and as well we were leaving the tanks to increase the temperature a bit more. Maybe we were fermenting like 30, 31, something like this, because with this fermentation you can evaporate a bit of alcohol. Sure. And you avoid reductions due to problems of the yeast to survive to this concentration of alcohol. Okay. So you end up with a clean wine, open wine, with no reductive notes, also protecting all the time before and after fermentation, with inner gases and a lot of cleaning, because square tanks are very complicated. If I need to design now, I will do it round. It's easier for everything. Not square. Okay. Not square, but at the beginning it was like when it's a square, you have bigger surface, open surface. So it has positive and negative things. While in Ribera del Duero, and especially in Atauta, because it was a very high elevation and very cool climate, one of the most important things is to find the right ripeness moment, because even having a good ripened tannins or very good texture of tannins, you are going to have always a bit of greenness or a bit harsh. I think it's part of the beauty of these grapes, and it's going to be maybe for a longer aging, but you need to be very careful about avoid to extract the very vegetal ones, because those ones are going to be always dry and always green. It doesn't matter what you make, because when you taste the wine, it's going to be beautiful but green. Okay. So, and the seeds in Ribera del Duero normally doesn't ripe. So you need to take care about, especially pumping over, how many times you do pumping over, and taking care about this in the different moments where the fermentation when you have the cap up, or when you are going to have a lot of seeds in the bottom. So maybe you need to think about how many times you are going to make Delastache, or how many Pinot Noirs are you going to make, or how are you going to end up the fermentation. Normally, longer macerations are going to give you more polymerization rather than a lot of oxygen that we were using in the warmer climate, because we were having the polymerization earlier. And also a big difference between the two, it was the pressing. So the pressed wine, for example, in Toro is an amazing, incredible wine with a little bit of age, the right oak and the right coopers, you are going to have a 100% high quality wine. In Atauta, it depends on the years. Maybe the pressed wine, you need to cut earlier and to be very careful about the length.
So, I mean, that's fascinating, because again, same grape, but different growing conditions really affecting your winemaking. That must have been, for you, it must have been quite interesting and quite a nice challenge. Because for me, when I read about you and I read about Atauta, for me, this is the first time where you are given lots of credit and lots of accolades, lots of Parker points, and lots of recognition around the world. Not that you didn't get that at Cenit, because I know you got Parker points at Cenit, but it was really at Atauta that you made your name. You made your name. Talk to me about sort of the recognition and the sales after all of this hard work, understanding your vines, understanding the soil, changing the way you do your maceration and extraction. Talk to me about the sales and the recognition. What happened with that?
Basically, when I joined the project, the winery was selling around 100,000 bottles, and when I left, we were in 350,000 bottles.
Wow.
So basically, it was, I need to explain you that it was two wineries in the same small village. One was focused on the very high quality, Dominio de Atauta, and the single vineyards, and also by the observation of the valley and the different parcels, and thinking about the potential of the area and the villages around, we launched a new brand there that it was Parada de Atauta. So this was a part of the increasing of the sales. And the other winery was focused more in the regular aging process of the wines in Ribera del Duero, that we were making a roble, a crianza, and a small amount of reserva. It was two separately wineries in the same building. It was like 50 meters distance between the two.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, the quantities are within the two wineries.
Within the two wineries.
So it was like 3.5 times more sales. So this was about thinking about how to make everything, make more pure, or I will say that being perfectionist with the single vineyards, taking a lot of care about each of the parcels that were going to be part of the top wine. How can we build a forward, easy, but interesting style, that it was Parada de Atauta, that it was the new brand, and excuse me, and how to make interesting wines with a regular aging within the area, as is Ribera del Duero, can be fit into the market. So it was a full, project, since creating wines, thinking about them since the beginning, from the vineyards to the end.
Wow. Okay. So from there, so you actually left. You left in 2015, and somebody came knocking on your door. So that is where you are now, Grupo Bodegas Palacio, 1894. So you are now the technical director. What does that mean?
Exactly. Sometimes I think the same, because I think the terminology, if I need to tell you the truth, I don't like the terminology, but I think it's showing the depth of the work that you make. For me, a technical director, and this is how I feel it and how I work it with my team, is the person who is designing the wines and making sure that all the steps are happening like they need to be happening to do this style of wine. So making analysis about basically my work here, it was understand the winery, make an analysis about pros and cons of every project, listen the objectives that the company had, exchange with them what I thought and where are the weaknesses and the forces of everything, and I start to build up since the beginning. Okay. From there, like, I think this is okay or this not. I think the style should be in that quality level. They should be looking like this. Are you agree with this or not? I think we are missing maybe one style of wine like this. And basically make the analysis, project this into the future and make this happen. So basically my work, I have, of course, I work with a team of winemakers, but my work is find the grapes or think about the final wine, because this is how my brain works. And so we need this. So I'm going to find the grapes, find the viticulturists, the right people, exactly what you need, and divide into the different qualities and decide the picking moment. And until that point, I leave everything into my colleague. And the fermentation, we have protocols and regular things. I test regularly, but I have my the people from my team. We are working all together and very close together, but they are in charge of the daily basis of the winery, and I'm in charge of moving the things forward with the wines. So selecting grapes, putting there, and after that deciding everything about aging. How are we going to design this wine? For example, if we think in a young wine with a bit of oak, like a roble style, so I will do like a sort of plan, like maybe we are going to have some without malolactic to have fruit, some with 6 months in new oak, just to clean up the oak, and 50% maybe in tank to have fruit. And we are working these wines with micro-oxygenation in order to develop without oak, but have the fruit. So this is the plan. Okay. Give the plan, check that everything is happening in the right way, like tasting with them regularly, and they take care about this. And after that, final blends, preparation of the wine, and also I'm working with the marketing team and sales team in order to align the projects that we are making at the winery into the market.
So just so everybody knows, so she's very, very modest, technical director, but I'm going to give you the next map so you can actually see what she is technical director of. So I know initially when you started in 2015, it was Viña Mayor, which is in Ribera del Duero. So that's quite a large historic winery. There's I think over 1 million bottles get produced. So it was originally just Viña Mayor, Finca Anthil in Toro, that's quite a bit smaller. I think there's only, you said to me, around 60,000 bottles in that one. And Caserío de Duenas in Ribera del Duero. So originally it was the 3. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then I don't know, they just kept on adding more to you, or you said, yeah, I want more, because now you're working in Rioja, you're in Valladolid, you've got a project in Valderas, you've got a project in Rías Baixas. I mean, I'm exhausted just reading that. So when you sit there and you talk about, I think about what we want, I design the processes, and then I run around and talking to all my winemakers. So I look at this map and I'm thinking, do you live out of your car?
Very little. Very little.
I know you're in Ribera del Duero, but you obviously are driving around and visiting all these wineries on a regular basis, are you not?
Yes, which is truth is that Ribera del Duero, Rueda and Toro are very close in the terms of wine areas. So I'm living in Valladolid, which is in the center. For me, it's like 40 minutes going to Ribera del Duero, 40 minutes going to Rueda, and 1 hour Toro. Okay. And Valladolid is a city which is in the center, very well located. So it's 1 hour in train if I need to go to Madrid. Okay. And 2 hours and a half driving to Rioja, and 3 hours to Valdeorras and Rías Baixas. So basically the three projects are very close together, and and the other two are a bit apart. Maybe I'm going once a month to each of the projects. And
so that's yes, you do live out of your car.
Yeah, my boss kept adding things, and I have this terrible personality of saying yes. Okay. I didn't learn to say no. So after 2 years of having the wineries, I was offered to manage the vineyards, because in Rueda and Toro we have small wineries, but we have XL vineyards. We have 300 hectares in Rueda and 90 hectares in Toro, but we work as a professional viticulturist there. So because I was focused, I always go into the vineyards because I need to check what is happening. Sure. And I want to control the quality of my grapes. So because I was digging a lot, and I was saying like, this is not enough quality, we need to do this, we are lacking that, blah, blah, blah. So my boss told me like, maybe you need to be in charge of the vineyards. And because you are talking too much. And I say yes, because for me, I think controlling the grapes that you are going to get in the winery, or working as a professional viticulturist, from speaking winemakers to winemakers, I think it's easier, because you know what you need, and you know what your buyers want about the grapes, no? You understand perfectly. Sure. And I thought that it was going to be better. Of course, I have a colleague which is in charge of all the administration of the vineyard, and we have a vineyard manager, and we have a consultant, which is helping us to develop all the project, because we are doing so many things, changing all the way of working, and in the process of changing into organic vineyard. And so it's a full idea of 360 turnaround in the vineyard. So of course, there are a lot of people working there. Basically, I'm telling them like, I think this is important, this, we need to get these objectives done, or which are possible to make it this year. I want this, and take care about the fields. So I'm going there and I check the qualities and basically promote all the changes. We are replanting 50 hectares, and so many things. So I thought that this was more important for me, because I was going to use time with knowledge. So I was going to use my time in order to increase the quality of the grapes that I was going to receive, rather than running at the back of a vineyard manager that is not interested in increase the quality. Sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes they are more interested in give the number of kilos, or the number of, or the total price. And I think it's a balance that you need to think about it. So I took it.
No, I mean, I think it's
interesting for me.
Obviously, you must have confidence in your protocols that you put in place for the winery, that you feel you can now switch and focus on the vineyards as well. Now, I have to ask you, because you have said to me before in private conversations, you've said to me, you know, I can go to a winery and there's perfect grapes, they're perfectly clean, they grow very well, but they have no passion. I want passionate grapes. So by you being in charge of the winery, are you growing passionate grapes? And can you tell me what a passionate grape is?
It's a very difficult definition, but I think is, I always say that is the same experience that you have when you go to a restaurant. There are places that they can pass you the energy of their passion through a wine, through a dish, through everything. I believe in energy and in the passion that some sort of people put in the things. Is that you are a master of wine, so sometimes you drink a wine that even if you don't know what it is, you are feeling something different.
Yeah,
there are something that is
it makes you go wow,
going out of your glass and straight into your soul. And there are no science behind that. It's something that someone with a special sensibility is able to do. And with the grapes, it's the same. You can find very, very high quality, top class viticulturists in terms of treatment of the vineyard, or It's an ideal soil, ideal pruning, vegetation is perfectly green, very well put it. If it's a bush vine, it will be like a flower. If not, it's a perfect wall of leaves, very healthy, the right amount of kilos and yields, and suddenly you taste the grapes and this grape is not telling you anything. It's a very good grape to make a good wine with no passion.
Yeah.
And I think at every quality level should be a bit of passion.
Okay.
Even if you are making a €6 or €10 wine, there should be something special there that invite you to drink a little bit more or to discover a little bit more out of this bottle.
Okay, no, that's a great explanation. So, I mean, I could honestly interview you for another hour, but I do want to leave time for questions. So, a couple of different things. You're making white wine now. So the past few years you're making white wine. How is that different for you? You're most of your career has been making red. How is making white? You're making it Rueda, you're doing a project in Rias Baixas. Is that interesting to you? Is it different for you? Are the grapes passionate?
It's very interesting, and I became very passionate about it. At the beginning, if I need to tell you the truth, I was doing Tempranillo in very high quality places and very cool boutique wineries, and you think that you are the star of the universe, and you don't want to make white. Okay. Because for whatever reason, you think that maybe it's slightly boring or less interesting, or sometimes if you think like, oh, Verdejo. But Verdejo is an incredible variety with a lot of possibilities, so many things to do with it, and I was having so much fun doing it, and we were doing also a Sauvignon Blanc in our land of Caserío de Dueñas, which I enjoy a lot. If someone asks me at the first instance, which is your favorite variety, I will never say Sauvignon. I will say a few of the reds, and maybe after that Sauvignon, a few years ago. But I had so much fun doing the Sauvignon and playing around with the different parcels, different picking moments, tasting the grapes, watching out all the differences. That I love it, if I need to tell you the truth. And the white wine gave me the opportunity to jump into the west part of Spain, which is very Atlantic. So getting to know a different climate with the different variety, all the problematics within the small areas, and learning, keep learning on how to do it, and I enjoy it a lot. And if I need to tell you the truth, now my heart is divided between red and white.
Red and white, okay. Is there any other grape that in Spain, so let's talk about a Spanish grape that you're excited to either start learning about or you would like to know more about?
I would love to keep learning and discovering my area, Castilla y León. I would love to I'm doing a Mencía from Valdeorras, but Valdeorras and Bierzo, they are close, but the orography is so different that it's like 2 worlds apart. So I will be very happy to make a Mencía from Bierzo. I will love it. And also the little varieties, Prieto Picudo and the Garnachas from the mountains in Ávila, very close to Madrid. And also my heart and my family and my parents are from Zamora, a bit more west from Tierra del Vino, and in Ribera del Duero, which is also a very small, tiny DO, and they have several indigenous varieties with very old vines there. So I think I have a lot to experience around my area, and I would love to keep experience here, and also in Asturias, in the north part of Spain, and I would love to make a champagne.
You want to make a champagne. So you do want to make sparkling. You want to make a champagne, or you want to make some type of cava? So something bottle fermented.
Bottle fermented, but I have a sort of passion for champagne. I think there are something in champagne that there are, or maybe in UK, because I love the UK sparklings. I think they have this purity, this chalkiness from a very cool place, which I think they are more amazing than maybe other areas.
Okay. How about a grape outside of a Spanish grape? Give me one grape that's not Spanish that you would love to make a wine from.
I think the one that I would love to make, first of all, for me, it's very complicated to choose only one because I always want to try everything. But if there are something that I would love to make by heart, it will be a Pinot Noir.
The Pinot Noir. You and most winemakers that I interview, it's Pinot Noir. It is fascinating.
Because it's a challenge. It's a challenge, very delicate and very complex at the same time.
Okay, and the last question, who was your favorite wine teacher?
You. And no, it's not because this is, I'm telling you, this is from my heart. I know that I love you a lot, and I think you are a great person and very great colleague as a Master of Wine as well. But you were one of my first teachers. If I need to tell you the truth, I think you were the first one.
Was I?
In the level 2. Do you remember that I didn't realize the first time that I met you again, but suddenly one day you were talking and I said like, oh, you were my teacher.
I remember meeting you at an airport. We were, I think Frankfurt, we were meeting, and you looked at me and said, you were my teacher. And I said, I recognize you actually.
And
everybody, I paid her to say that. I paid her to say that. Anyway.
No, you are very clear. You have everything very well set up in your brain. And in that way that you have everything clear, all the concepts, you show and you learn, you teach to the people like this, very clear, what are the most important things. And after that, I love your sense of humor. You can be very straight and focused, and at the same time, you can be very nice and funny girl, which I think is a perfect combination to start in the wine business.
Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Well, I was very proud when you became a Master of Wine. So we are delighted to have you as Master of Wine. And, you know, for International Women's Day, when Lydia and I were talking about who we'd like to interview, you were the first person we thought of. So I think for people who don't know, Almo is 5'2". She is tiny, but she is mighty, let me tell you. And she is, you know, she's amazing. And I think just gives you a little taste of the energy she has, the things that she's done, her desire to learn. You know, somebody has asked, you know, how long did it take you to do your oenology degree part-time? I mean, most of us do our MW part-time. You did your oenology degree part-time, and you just kept on learning as you were working, during the whole thing. So, you know, I'm going to assume, how long did it take you for your oenology degree part-time?
Enology was easy peasy. I did it on time. Because I was engineer before, the enology degree in Spain, it was 2 years.
2 years.
At that time. So it took me 2 years and a bit, because you need to do a research paper at the end. And it was about the harvest and the vintage. It took me longer, the Master of Wine. This was a bit more complicated.
You were busy. You were busy. So there's a question from the audience about women with purchasing power and knowledge about wine. Do you design wine when you talk about, I think about the grapes, I think about the wine. Do you design that with that in mind? Do you think about the role of women and purchasing power? Does that set trends for you? Do you think about that? Or are you just looking to create a great wine?
I think, of course, women are changing the way of looking at things as you are getting different or more decision-making jobs. Yeah. But by the time that I'm creating wines and thinking about what to make, is not, I'm watching into the market, and I think with half of the brain as a master wine, where you have a big knowledge and an overview of the wine in general, and also half of my brain as a consumer. What I'm missing in the market, what I would like to be drinking at that certain point, do I find it into the places where I go or not? And what opportunities there are in the places where I'm working to fit some of the things that are missing in the market. Okay. And when I find these opportunities, of course, I speak with my boss, which is the CIO, and I say, like, I think I can see this opportunity, this other. Like, normally, it's like, no, let's discuss. give more arguments. No, we always do like this because both of us are very hard-minded. So it's like, so we get into an agreement, and after that, I start to work on it.
Well, I mean, I know you travel around the world too, so that must influence you as well. You know, what you see and what you taste around the world. Got a question for you, and I know the Rioja winery has now come under your sort of responsibilities. It's a question about white Rioja. You know, obviously there's a big time when white Rioja was quite popular. It's a little bit less popular now. It's talking about the UK market. What do you think the future is for white Rioja?
I think the white Rioja, it will come up again. This is I have this feeling because Viura and the way of aging the whites in Rioja, I think is high international class wines. They age in a so much beautiful way that those things never pass over on fashion. I think like everything in the world is doing cycles or curves, like sometimes they are up, a bit down, up. Sure. And I think because they are so interesting and a completely different style than others, I think they will keep there, and probably, this is my personal feeling, that we are coming from very clean fruit-forward wines, and we are looking maybe to the opposite, maybe more lees aging, maybe a bit of oak, and maybe a bit of age in the way that we look to the whites.
Okay. So potential for that, do you see that more on the restaurant side and the Oreca side with food? Because it is, to me, an aged white Rioja is probably one of the most flexible pairings I think you can absolutely have.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Okay. And also incredible prices.
Yeah,
for
the high, for what they put into it, what they do, and how long it's an oak. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like white Rioja Crianza from 2016 or 17, and suddenly it's like 12 euros, please. I give you 24.
Yeah, no, it's quite amazing. Can you talk just, I know we don't have a lot of time, a little bit about climate change. I know you're working within the vineyards and you're working in some areas that are very, very hot, very, very dry. What are some things that you're doing to try and protect the future of these grapes with respect to particularly replanting?
Of course, I think we are in a period of lot of changes because there are big variations in every harvest. So every harvest becomes a completely new situation compared with others. Okay. It is getting very complicated to have this, like the harvest of the year, like a harvest to remember in the future. We are choosing, like, this is much better than the other, but we are not finding this 2005 or these 2000s that are glorious all over Europe. I think this is going to be less and less. Okay. So, and I think the major problem that we are going to have is water, of course, because water is going to become the petrol of the future. Sure. So I think we need to work very carefully with that and thinking about a lot how to manage this. So for example, in our new plantings, we are putting the irrigation underneath or like 50 centimeters underneath in order to save like 30% of the water. As well, we are changing varieties to be more adapted into the area.
When you say changing varieties, are you like local varieties, native varieties, or different clones? So you're using more? We
are adjusting the rootstock and changing into varieties that are less demanded of water. Yeah. And I think for me, the other thing that is going to happen, which is very important and is going to impact, is the climate changing the environment. So I think that maybe pests and diseases are going to be changing as well. So I think it could happen very easily, the same thing that is happening with COVID for humans. Sure. We will have different pests and diseases that will be attacking our vineyards and our places. Okay. So for me, for that, I think one of the most important things and the major things is to increase the biodiversity of our lands. Okay. Avoid the monocultivar as a vineyard, yeah, and give all the chances to our vineyards and to the ecosystem to develop as much as possible. So because as rich as the ecosystem of your place, you will be stronger to fight with a sort of pest or disease that could be entering into your place.
Wow, fascinating. So for you, when you talk about vintages, so you're saying your most challenging vintages are yet to come. You've got challenging vintages every year?
Yes,
really,
every year.
Because of climate change?
Yeah, everything is getting very strange.
Okay.
Like a lot of water when normally we don't have water, very dry years. Because, for example, last year it was okay. Because last year we have twice of the amount of water of a normal year within the six fair months. So between January and June, we have more or less 2 or 2.5 the amount of normal year. But the previous years, we were half of the amount necessary to grow up a grapevine. So if you have only 200, for example, in Toro in 2019, we had almost or maximum 200 millimeters of water. So this wasn't enough to build up a healthy grapevine. We were doing irrigation just to try to level the normal amount. Right. So we have very, very low yields. We were having like 2,500 kilos per hectare, 3,000 kilos in a training system where you could be having 7,000 easily. Yeah. So all the years are being like this, very extreme, either because you have a lot of water in a certain point, or even because it's very drought, or the temperatures. When it was I think 17 or something like this. I remember coming from Madrid, and when I came out of the train, it was like putting a hair dryer into your face. It was like 42, 44 degrees Celsius, 5 afternoon in June, when all the flowering and the less than pea size of the grapes, when they are very green, just after the flowering.
Wow.
Everything, and this was like drying literally the grapes into the vines. You cannot do anything with that. Yeah. Even we were irrigating just to give like a sort of fresh air into the environment, but it was day and night for a week.
That's amazing.
So all of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, all of this is very extreme. Yeah. So more complicated to set up an objective of your vineyard. Yeah.
Can I ask you, as International Women's Day, as a female winemaker, are other female winemakers in Spain supportive? Do you guys have a little group?
Yes, there are a couple of groups. Yeah? Now it's very exciting moment. Okay. There are, with a few journalists as well. There are a very good journalists they have a Spanish wine lover page, which is in English and Spanish. And there are 2 ladies which are very clever and very nice. They are supporting pretty much they are supporting everyone, but as well women. There are a journalist or a sommelier, which is Instagrammer as well, Merichel, in the East in Barcelona, creating a group of females with Ancanan, which is also a female winemaker, and they are supporting a lot to all the women. And I think we are a good number now. And seems to be that all of them are very friendly and supporting and helping each other.
So I'm going to do the last one. Your family, was your family in wine? Did you attach importance to wine and food? How did that inform you?
My family, can you make the question again, please?
So with your family, did your family place a lot of importance on food and wine matching, or did you just grow up in a wine region and you just drank the local wine?
I'm first generation. My grandfather had a small vineyard, so I remember since I was a child to be helping my grandfather, my parents, and with all the things. But we were drinking just a sort of rosé, normal rosé or red wine. So basically, I'm became obsessed about the wine and food and matching, and they are very happy and open for me to experiment with them. So,
Okay.
so I'm going to cook this. And
That's
when
great.
we went to the celebration of the Master of Wine, I took my parents, and it was the first time for them to go into UK.
Yeah.
So I was very excited. So I want them to taste everything, like, oh, now we are going to do a Korean and Chinese and this. And they were like, everything was very good, but the food, it was a bit complicated.
Okay. Great. Well, I'm gonna wrap up with a couple of questions from the audience. I've been trying to work these questions in. Someone is talking about your new role with Oeno.
Oeno, yeah.
So your new role with Oeno. So so can you just just very, very quickly tell us what you're doing with them?
Yeah, they are a fine wine investment firm. Yep. So now they have a good portfolio of wines offering to collectors, and they want to increase and they think that Spain has a lot of potential, and they want to increase the presence of Spain into their portfolio. So they were looking for a brand ambassador for the country, and they offered me the position. So I'm really very happy. I'm very proud of that. And
because you have nothing to do, is that it? You've got all kinds of free time.
It's not because of that, but honestly, I have enough with all my work. But
you do.
On the other hand, I thought that I need this contact with the English people, the UK market, the different ways of thinking, because for me it's like something for the soul, going a little bit out of my regular daily basis at the winery. And it's like having a fit into my other passion, which is travel and to look into the world with different glasses. Okay. And I always wanted to work in fine wine. So I think it was like the opportunity that I wanted, and also representing my country or helping very good producers maybe to be closer to collectors, while I can be doing my other passion, which is winemaking.
Yeah, that's great. Another question from the audience. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to change careers midlife? How do they break into the wine industry?
If they want to come into the wine industry, this is, I will tell them to do it, because I think it's a very passionate and very good way of living. But of course, they need to be prepared. And I will say that the first thing that they need to do is the level 1, 2, 3, or 4, wherever, depending on how much they know. So, but I think it's fundamental and totally necessary to learn about the wines, to know what a wine means, and to have some international language to communicate with with the audience. Because wherever you
like to like cleaning,
exactly.
Okay. And I think another question the same, the best way to go about getting an internship in Spain. So I'm not quite sure how you, yeah, I think getting an internship or seeing if somebody wants a free cellar hand. I'm sure there's lots of wineries that could use a free cellar hand during vintage. Is that an easy thing to do during harvest?
I like to do it, and we try to do it, and we always have someone from the university or from different study programs. Yep. Because I think it's really good for everyone, for them and for us, because everyone is coming with different things, that everyone is putting positive things and thoughts in the place. Okay. From whatever point of view, people that is happy to share very intense months of the year all together. And I think if they want, they need to contact with Winemakers or with me, and or if they are in a study program, contact straight as well with the businesses wherever they want to go. And I think everyone is doing as much as possible to.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things. I think lots of study programs, whether you're at WSET or at Plumpton, usually there's something about sort of cellar hand. So that's probably to get your feet wet, to get in on the ground, probably doing some free work is probably what you would do.
Sweeping the floor.
Yeah, so clean the floor, like cleaning the floor. I know Lydia's going to come on. It's going to cut me off because we're running 15 minutes over. So I will wrap it up. I think you're amazing. I think you're a dynamo. You're an amazing woman. I just can't believe you do what you do in your day job. I think you're incredible. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to interview you and to celebrate you for International Women's Day. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving us your knowledge and giving us your time. And good luck.
Thank you very much, Michelle,
for this year and for the harvest this year.
It was my pleasure as well. And also you helped me to remember so many things that sometimes you tend to forget. So.
And just to thank WSET as well, WSET London and Lydia for helping put this together, and for all of you for giving up your time and joining us tonight. I hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.